What are your thoughts on alien life, on life outside of this planet? Is this something you think about?
I think there must be. Even in the solar system, I would not be surprised if we find microbes on Mars or on some of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn where there's liquid water.
Like Europa.
Yeah. And the reason is that if you think about the reason I think that, and it's a guess, is because if you look at the history of life on Earth, then so Earth formed and it was just there was no life. It was a ball of rock. And almost as soon as it cooled down, we see evidence of life. So certainly 3.8 billion years ago, possibly even further back than that, we see evidence of life on Earth. So somewhere along the line, geochemistry, active geochemistry became biochemistry on Earth. And we have some idea, that if you get gradients of temperature and acid and alkaline and the conditions that are naturally present on the surface of oceans, then complex carbon chemistry spontaneously happens. So we know that life, almost certainly we know that life began on Earth. I mean, the other option is it came from space or something like that, but it probably didn't, right? It probably began on Earth. So that means that at least here, that happened. And that we know that the conditions that led to the origin of life on Earth were present on Mars 4 billion years ago. And we know that they're present on Europa today. So I don't see that there's anything special. Life is geochemistry. And the idea that geochemistry becomes biochemistry is not fanciful because it happened here. So I think that given the same conditions, it would be surprising to me if the same thing didn't happen, in that life begins. So that's to test that is one of the great frontiers of science now. It's one of the great challenges, which is why another reason we're interested in Mars, because we know those conditions were there. We know there were what's called hydrothermal vent systems on the floors of oceans on Mars 3.8 or 4 billion years ago. So it would be good to know if what I've said is right. And the way we find out is to find life or evidence of past life.
Are you aware of the speculation that was going around? How recent was it, that Occupy thing, the octopus eggs? There was a group of scientists that were speculating that it's panspermia, the idea of panspermia, that it's possible that octopi had come from somewhere else. Some frozen eggs had actually come from somewhere else and landed on Earth. And these were like legitimate scientists that were contemplating it, not morons.
Have you seen this? No, I didn't. But I mean, I think it's unlikely. So panspermia doesn't have to be unlikely.
Right.
I mean, for example, you might have seen the other day we found an Earth rock on the moon.
Yes.
Right. Well, it's back on Earth now because the Apollo astronauts brought it back, didn't they? It's 4 billion years old or something like that.
One of the oldest rocks ever found.
Yeah.
Right.
So we know that material gets transferred between planets. And so it's not inconceivable that microbes could survive that journey. Right. We know that microbes can survive in space, for example. So that isn't mad. It's probably unlikely, but it's not mad. But with the octopus, I hadn't heard that. But the thing is that the octopus is still extremely similar biologically to us. I mean, the differences are negligible.
Yeah.
So it's still got the same energy system with the things called ATP and DNA and all that stuff. It's all very, very similar.
It was something about RNA and DNA. Did you find that article?
I'm looking at a different one from a different website. It's about the same thing. It has to do with the Cambrian explosion. And there were 33 authors on a paper that got published in the Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology that talked about this possibility. There are other people that disagree with it, though.
Right. I mean, I suppose I haven't seen it. So I think it's unlikely because the octopus is extremely similar to us. So that suggests a common origin to me. That I suppose the counter argument you could advance would be there's only one way to do life. So you could say that actually because the laws of physics and chemistry are the same everywhere. So maybe DNA is the only way to do it. So that's the way it gets done.
Which is why they're so similar to us.
Yeah, it's
so alien as well.
They're not, though. That's the thing about an octopus. That's why I'm surprised about it, because they're not that alien. They're very similar.
Well, their abilities. I mean, their ability to transform their outer texture and their color almost instantaneously.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they have incredible camouflage abilities that really don't exist in the mammalian world.
Yeah, cellular level. You look at an octopus cell under a microscope, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between an octopus cell and a human cell.
So the only way that would make sense is if all life comes from basically the same kind of building blocks and just varies depending upon the conditions and where it takes place.
I'm getting, but yes, that must be the only way you could sustain that, given that they're so similar to us, because they are biochemically. That's the only way it can be done, given the building block, the toolkit, the laws of nature, and the elements and so on that we have in our universe.
We have so many different life forms on our planet, but if we found anything that's remotely similar to what we have here on Earth on another planet, it would be such an incredible discovery. Like if we found a frog on the moon, I mean, the world would stop, right?
I'd be very surprised if we found a frog on the moon.
But if we found anything anywhere that is in any way similar, an insect on Mars.
Well, this is, I mean, as I say, it'd be micro. I think it'd be single-celled things. Remember, I mean, you mentioned the Cambrian explosion. So that is what we do know about Earth is that although life began, let's say, 3.8 billion years ago, it wasn't until around 600 million years ago or so, or maybe at most 700, that you see any complex multicellular organisms at all. So for something like 3 billion years, it was single-celled alone. And that's one of the reasons why I would guess, if I had to guess, I would say that microbes would be common because life began very quickly on Earth. And I wouldn't be surprised if we find it on Mars. But complex life, multicellular life, insects, plants, intelligence, I would guess would be very rare because it took so long on Earth to get there. And it was just slime, about 3 billion years of slime. That was it.
Fertile, and you're the most likely to conceive, and it's also like that's what nature wants. Yeah. Nature wants you to have sex when you're a fucking kid. You're 16.
It's because we were last more than 20 years. I think nature was like, get this done now. You're dead. Decade.
No, but we haven't adapted to that yet.
We'll ever catch up?
It would take so long. It's not like people are going to stop humping.
Yeah, I mean, chemically, that would change.
You would have to almost delay puberty, but then when you would fuck up people's development, what could you do because there's a window when you're growing and your hormones are kicking in and all this stuff is kind of synced normally by nature. If you interfere with that because you think the kids can't handle having sex, like you're going to delay, what are you going to delay puberty? Like till they're smart enough?
Yeah, you have to.
Well, you're not even smart enough when you're in your 20s.
No, you're not. No one's smart enough. Fucking it never kicks in.
Well, it's wild about humans, right? Is like there's this clear biological imperative to procreate, and it kicks in when you have no business teaching a kid life. You know, to raise a child when you're 15. And you're the husband's 15 and you're 15
it's a nightmare.
And you just gave birth to a baby and you're a baby.
Yeah. Like that pregnant show or whatever that always it's like when it works you're happy because you're like the kid's might turn out a nice life but when you see that goes awry it's sad as shit because a lot of times it's bound to lose, you know. But then sometimes you wait too long and it gets harder to have kids. I've dealt with that. It's just it's wild how your body sometimes or the body is like
you missed the window.
Maybe you missed a window. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have in vitro fertilization.
Yeah, science fixes all that shit.
Yeah. Well, they're developing the concept at least of artificial wombs, and they think that there will be a time where they'll be able to have babies outside of a human body,
just growing next to you in your house.
Yeah. How far away is that? Because I read something recently on this as a concept that they think that, but then like what is the baby getting from the mother in terms of like emotions and feeling and like babies are empathic, right? They're feeling the mother's stress. Your cortisol raises when your mother's under stress.
Right.
There's probably like lessons, like you're learning things from the mother, like just from feelings,
like instinctual stuff kicks in. And
I wonder.
Well, it's got to be based on like diet and your lifestyle schedule and the way that you operate has to influence the way that.
Can you imagine if they made babies in an artificial womb and the babies just came out like soulless? And what do you do? Like
it's very stiff.
Yeah, and then the scientists say, well, actually, we've discovered the soul's real. And it only comes from the mother into the baby, and it comes while the baby's inside the mother.
That's actually a great movie.
They think that was like an ancient belief that the soul entered the body at a certain time. Now I'm thinking about it, I think it was like 6 weeks. There was an ancient belief that there was a very specific time where the soul entered the body.
While you're in the womb.
Yeah, while the baby's in the womb.
So you're in there for 6 weeks cooking. At 6 weeks, that's when the soul shows up.
Is that what they think it was? What was this ancient myth, belief, whatever you? Who knows if it's real?
I feel like it'd be right the moment that
Aristotle.
there's fertilization.
Aristotle believed it?
In the time of Aristotle is actually what it says. Soul entered the embryo at 40 days for a male and 90 days for a female.
Beat you there, girls.
Wonder why I waited.
Why they chill?
Ensoulment.
They're fucking late. They gotta do something.
What's it called?
Ensoulment.
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 And so that was just their belief. It wasn't. Was it based on any thought?
Hippocrates was the first to believe this.
Well, he's always contradicting himself.
Was
the
he?
embryo was a product of male and
Hypocrisy is Why are we? I wonder. Why do you speculate 40 and they're 90? Why would
back
that
then
be?
They probably didn't like girls.
Right. That's why. These bitches are slow. They don't even get their souls when we get our souls.
Give me another taste of the good stuff.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
These bitches are slow.
I mean, they probably. Yeah, they probably.
I bet you scientists. They probably get it before we do, if anything.
Artificial womb thing I found. 2019, there's an article that said they think they're 10 years away, but I dug through that to find the person that was claiming it, and it turns out it's just like an artist.
Oh.
So like, it wasn't a group scientist thing, it was like an artist that says like, we might be
Hey man,
there,
art
right?
scientist.
That would scare the shit out of me if they were just thinking people in a lab. Oof.
You don't think they're doing that already?
But yeah, there's vision.
I feel like gotta be manipulating.
I bet in another country they're doing it.
I think we got our hands in there, baby.
Do you think so?
I think for sure.
You think like in Area 51 out there making people?
Well, don't. It's so funny that for how many years, when you were a kid, for how many years did you hear about, that alien life forms at Area 51? That's all bullshit. That's not what it. And then now they're like, no, there's some alien shit over there.
They don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
They say there's something unidentified. They found things that they don't know really what it is, that they've experimented on, for sure.
I get exactly what they've said.
What do they
talk to a lot of these guys? What the government is admitting is that they believe that there are crafts that are operating that are outside of their understanding of physics.
They've never said that we have anything.
There have been people that have said, and this is a quote from the Pentagon, that there was off-world vehicles not from this earth. Mm-hmm. But who said that quote is what I was always confused about. It was like one of the top Pentagon official. It's like one of those things where it's like, wait a minute, who said that?
Yeah.
And what is the exact quote? How did you exactly say it? How much of this is clickbait? But I've talked to multiple pilots that have had encounters.
I got to know we got something.
And I don't know if it's ours, if it's a drone that we don't tell them about, that moves in a way that defies our understanding of physics because it doesn't operate on a propulsion engine. It operates on something that's completely new and unique. And there have been thoughts about how a new and unique gravity-based propulsion system would work for decades. Astrophysicist Eric W. Davis, who spent years working as a consultant for the Pentagon UFO program and is now a defense contractor, gave a classified briefing to the Defense Department on what he called off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. In other words, spaceships. The bombshell quote came in the latest UFO report from the New York Times, which has owned the beat for the past several years. In December 2017, the paper reported on the existence of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a Pentagon effort to investigate UFOs that was supposedly shuttered in 2012, but wasn't. The article, hailed as a historical inflection point in our attitudes regarding UFOs, implied the same message that the most recent one does. Basically, flying saucers are real.
Can I see a picture of Eric W. Davis?
Pussy Eric's
I want to see that. I want to see I want to see how much I believe him based on his look.
Yes, let's just
see what he looks like, just so I can see what he looks like.
Is that him?
No, that's here in Austin. Warp Drive Metrics, consulting for the Department of Defense. That's it. Just go back and go to images, Jamie. Click on images so we can pick one for fun. We can make a. Oh, that's him, dude. That is him. Wow, there's your dog.
Off-world technology.
Okay, so based on that first picture in the Hawaiian shirt,
yeah,
do we believe it?
A little little skeptical.
I'm skeptical. This, I don't know, dude. That Tommy Bahamas lead me down a weird line.
But if you were the Pentagon, you wanted to hire a guy.
That's the guy.
That's the guy.
That is the guy.
Because you don't want any distractions. You want a guy who's 100% invested. So he was back then too? What year? Is that
That's just
Jacques
like,
Vallée?
It's like a white power.
Huntsville, Alabama?
Yeah, looks like it's him.
What is that Jacques Vallée with him?
It's LinkedIn, so yeah.
Interesting.
What's crazy about what I just said about saying that too?
What?
In that photo, I was just joking around saying, like, it looks like he's throwing up like power symbol. This guy, like a Nazi salute.
Right.
You know what's insane?
What?
Huntsville. That's where the KKK was started.
Jesus.
Literally.
Is that Jacques with him? I think he's too old in that image.
I played that gig in Huntsville. Joe, we took a ride from Nashville down to Huntsville, and the driver was a really cool dude, really guy. And I was playing the Huntsville, whatever's down there. I don't know what down there in Alabama, but you do like a one show after Nashville, and we're driving, and he's like, you know, NASA's right here, and I was like, oh really? He's like, it's right there, dude. He's like, you won't see it? Yeah, if we have time, for sure. Drives by, seeing the outside of it. You know, they have fucking like rockets outside. It's dope as shit. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. He's like, yeah, man, a lot of fucking nerds is going to be at your show from there, I'm sure. And I was like, yeah, but hopefully. And he goes, yeah, it's a cool little thing that they plopped it right down here by us. Down that road, KKK got started. I was like, oh, what a juxtaposition of that to that. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm not proud of it, but that's where. And I was like, so right there is NASA, like the most brilliant minds on Earth, like a mile away from the most chaotically stupid people on planet. I was like, that's so, like, that's like, it's like universal, like comedy given to the Earth, where it's like NASA, complete insane shitheads a mile away from each other, where it was birthed. Yeah, where it was birthed. And I asked him if it was still over there, and he's like, I don't know, but I don't know. And I was like, okay, so. Yeah, they're there.
If you were working on a base and they brought in some shit. Imagine if you're one of the guys someone's got to move those things around. They're not having the eggheads move them around.
No.
They're going to have guys like you and me.
Yeah.
If you and me were working on some fucking Air Force base, top secret clearance,
we'd be moving.
We know how to shut the fuck up because all of our phones are bugged.
Right.
You know, like they bug everything. They
For
bug
sure.
your house. You make sure you're not talking any shit. You're not saying nothing.
You
wheel in this burnt up UFO. They're like, what is this? And they're like, shut the fuck up.
Nothing.
Get out of here.
They don't let anybody see shit.
Well, someone has to move it in.
No, those guys do, but they tell your boss to get the fuck out of the building.
Right, but if you're one of those guys, move it in.
Oh, those guys.
Somebody has to move it in. They're not going to get the eggheads to move the thing.
They're talking about the eggheads. Like, what do they do?
No, if you have an enormous fucking spaceship.
Yes.
And you're a guy like you and I were maintenance in Area 51.
We definitely.
Maintenance, dude. 100%.
I'm crying something. And you're like, come on, brother, you got to help me move this fucking thing out this van.
We got this thing, and we get it. It's got like a low hum to it.
Just putting out a cigarette next to it. Like, I don't know if it's be near
set
it.
down there. It's covered in fucking soot and dirt and shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this?
It's dripping.
It crashed in the North Pole.
Yeah, it's dripping. I don't know. It's leaking. Something's leaking.
Bro.
Like it's oil or some shit.
Bro.
Are you tasting it?
Yeah. You wouldn't taste it?
Change your life if you saw a spaceship from another planet. Like, for sure, from another planet.
The problem is, this is the never-ending art. Who's going to believe? Because then you automatically become like I'm dead serious. And everybody's all right,
you become
dude.
that guy.
So you'd have to be, no, there is no way. It's like a never-ending, who's going to believe you? Because even people that really love you, your wife, like someone that's like, that knows you the best would be like, babe, is everything okay?
Yeah,
you're like, no,
they
I'm
would start thinking
serious.
You're cracking.
They're like,
worry about
you're
you.
losing it.
They would tell their friends.
I don't know what's been going on.
Andrew changed his medications and now he's seeing things. He's seeing things. Yeah.
That was, I don't know why this shot into my brain, but there was a documentary about a retirement community in Florida. And at this point in his life, the dude decided to start experimenting with drugs because he's like, fuck it, dude. I'm old.
He's 80.
Yeah, and he was
Let's
like,
go.
I don't give a shit. And the poor wife would be like, there's a scene where she's like, well, now what do you, they're both like sweet from the South. And she's like, what are you going to do? And he opens the door and he's out of his mind. He goes, don't come in here. I'm going to be jerking off. He closes the door on her. And you can tell she looks at what is this? That's exactly what it's called. Some kind of heaven. Bro, that's the guy. Brother, it's so fucking, this is such a great, beautiful docuseries about what it's like to live in one of these retirement. That's him. He's punching himself, dude.
Oh my god! And with a kung fu outfit on, that guy looks like a.
Dude, he's awesome.
Where is he?
This is all in Florida at this resort.
Oh, and they all do karate together and working out. That looks like fun.
So high-end resort, you pay this huge fee to get in, right? And then there's monthly fees, and then it's
stuff.
Everything's included though, but it's very promotional of active elderly. So they're like, this isn't like a come in, hospice. It's like, are you young enough to want to still go out and fuck and go drink and party and go play? And they all go there to party. And this dude he found cocaine, by the way, which is yeah, dude. He's driving a golf cart. He's just ripped out of his head.
Here's another documentary about it called "Golf, Booze, and Guns Inside the Boomer Paradise."
It's awesome, dude. That looks like fun. But that's where I'd want to go.
The
Look, when we get old as fuck, dude, we should start our own.
100%.
Let's do it.
I would love that.
All old comics. I'm old.
Yes.
It's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah, this is kind of it. This is my environment.
We got a lot of young guys here too, though.
Dude, these do. This is the
We
scene.
got a lot coming up.
The scene out here is moving heavy. I'm not trying to spread rumors, but old Joey DeRosa is going to be here this week, and he told me he wants to fucking move. I don't know if he's gonna, but
love it.
I
I'll
love
tell him
Joe.
I'll sandwich shop with him.
Dude, I think.
Let's go, Joe.
I said, "Are you really going?" I texted him this morning, and he's like, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in Austin." He's like, "I'll be there in 3 days." I was like, "I'm out of here. I'm sorry, man." And he genuinely, I think he genuinely has this interest. I would bug him about it.
I don't eat sandwiches, but I would eat one of his sandwiches.
No, they're great.
If I wanted to take like a cheap meal and feel like shit for 12 hours,
That's the one.
his fucking sandwiches look incredible.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. The problem is it's a bar too, so body liver over here. I have to have a couple every time I go.
Sandwiches. Oh my god.
They're delicious.
What is that one?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter
Oh
and jelly.
my god, incredible.
With Ruffles, original.
Oh my god. He's an animal. There's no health involved in his food.
Oh, dude. No.
His food is all about mouth pleasure.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic though. His subs look insane.
It's
What's it called again? Joey Rose's?
Yeah. I was just
I hear
there
nothing but great things.
over there with
I hear
him,
they're
and
huge
then
sandwiches too.
they are, and it's a great little spot. And I think it's in the lower East Village.
I
maybe?
love when a comic does something off the wall like that.
Yeah, man, trying shit is nice. It's like fuck.
Now, I'm not believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow stories or,
Even after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it irks me like every night I go to sleep that, that it was my own doing, essentially, that did me from continuing on in the project. I mean, it's that to be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me.
Right.
But by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing. But George Knapp is, he's the guy that has the contacts and tries to thread everything together. And what he recently told me is he found, I don't know, it was either documentation or people that he spoke to. It's that the existence of this project, the project that I was on, it's something that they seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
So that's a very specific, and this is actually, this is the first time I'll be very clear with people about it. It's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually was featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with a sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this document is real. Everybody wants to know. The world is going crazy right now in the UFO world. I'll tell you straight up right now, I'm in the position to know, and it is a real document, that it is real. So the conversation you read in that conversation was had. I can't attest to every...
You're not being very clear.
Sure.
Please.
So there was a document that is circulating right now that is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking and wondering.
What is this document?
It's called the Wilson Memo, is how you can find it online. Or the Wilson Leak.
There it is. Jimmy's got it. The Wilson Memorandum. Use of human volunteers.
No.
I just wanted to make sure that was it. Yeah.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion, oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G. And if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. And we'll see. My history is pretty good with like saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G Special Projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They put the technology away, and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things that's vindicating, besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. I'm telling you that is an actual correct, that is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document?
It's between a scientist and an admiral that are sitting, and they're having a meeting, and they're talking about the search for the UFO subject, the search to get Special Access Program access to all of these different things like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, one of the guys that has a couple of orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
He's the guy at Skinwalker Ranch.
No, he's not. He was the guy that owned
He used to
Skinwalker.
own it. Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But there's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker Ranch soon because there's a new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this insertion here is just that document kind of validates a lot of this idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere. They tuck it away, and then they bring it back out, 10 years later and start working on it. What is the limiting factor? I think Bob should speak on this, but it's the material science.
Yeah, it's really where physics is. So I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any information on that, but I think what George uncovered is probably accurate, that we try and do what we can, and once we reach a roadblock going, we really can't figure it out, it's just friggin' wait, put the thing away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see, all right, now where can we go?
But there's got someone who remains informed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you've got your scientists like you and Barry. You got your people that you compartmentalize. You got these people working on
Yeah, there has some people
right.
that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be on the outside saying, hey, we need people to guard this building. Don't let anybody in for 10 years.
I think a lot of that is private industry, and I think that's how
Really?
they keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document proves. You just articulated that it is in control of private industry.
What? Some aerospace company?
I don't know.
Yeah, they would. The guy admiral wouldn't name it in the car
Right.
in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So they still have these things, supposedly.
I would get. I mean, I don't have any information on that.
Have
at
you
all.
ever asked anyone that has any inkling of idea of where they got them or how they got them?
No, but some must have been said to me from Barry, but it was just too long ago, and I can't quite remember what was said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of an archaeological dig. So it's old. At least one of them is old. I don't know if it was the one I worked on, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig.
Whoa.
So that means it's not just old, it's ancient. Yeah.
Right?
As all of it would. Yeah.
Yeah.
That tripped me
all-
out when that for the first time.
Yeah. That's a fact right
Yeah.
there. Just a couple of dudes with some brushes looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. They
And-
hit metal.
And when you find it, that they have 9 of them.
Yeah.
Well, and how could we have not heard about that? What about the guy with the brushes? How could
Yeah.
you uncover something like that? And
Well, Joe's newspaper at home does. I mean, they said it on that first.
Oh, you mean the Roswell
Yeah,
Daily
yeah, the
Record?
one you told me. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cover. What is this here, Jamie?
This is the document, but I had to do some digging to find it.
Yeah, it's just kind of. Yeah, so this is where they meet at EG&G, and this is Admiralson, and there's a lot more coming out. Now, I want to be clear, George didn't put this out. He didn't leak this out to anybody. This is I can tell you how
Who
I
recorded this conversation?
So there's an employee of, at the time, Robert Bigelow.
And this is,
remember when he had that government contract called OSAP, the world all knows about now, and he had NIDS that studied the ranch. So that $22 million, everybody is saying it was for ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The $22 million was for OSAP that was pushed through Congress, 3 congressmen, right, an astronaut. It was pushed through. And that's what that $22 million, by the way, they spend more money on Viagra every year than they do studying UFOs if it was just this program, which I think is funny.
they probably a lot more money from Viagra
They
than from UFOs, too.
Well, you know how it seeds into population. But anyway, this program, this is what was the mother program. So it got the $22 million. And really, it was to study Skinwalker Ranch. Oddly enough, that $22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch, because the scientists, they're seeing vehicles come through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, I went there
Right,
with Duncan.
yeah,
we interviewed a bunch of people that seemed full of shit, but a couple that didn't. It was very, very interesting.
Totally. And if you look a lot of time in the area, I'm not talking about those stories. I'm saying there were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. And, whatever. The point is that $22 million was to study that. Then we have ATIP, which is like an auxiliary kind of program of military sightings, like Commander Fravers and that sort of thing. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded, and then it was personally funded and then government funded. It's just one of those things that kind of shakes you, because you got this military guy who can't get access because of the private industry that's holding these non-terrestrial materials, that they can't study it. So that's the claim right now. Give it some time, let people dig more into this. It's fascinating, man.
Way more fascinating when someone like you talks about it versus some fucking random kook. That's what makes me incredibly interested, is your credibility and the fact that this is not, you don't have a history of seeing wacky shit that other people don't see.
No, just this one.
But it's on video, and that there's other ones as well. It's really strange. And I've seen people try to explain it away. And what I don't like about when they explain it away or attempt to explain it away is that they're trying really hard. They're not going, who knows what this fucking thing is? They're not looking at it like cleanly. They're looking at it like a quote-unquote skeptic. I don't like the idea of being a skeptic. Not that I don't think you should be skeptical of certain things. I certainly think you should be. But there's a lot of people that brand themselves as skeptics. And I think it's a lazy way to look at things. I really do. Because I think you're just looking for the holes in things without looking at it objectively. If you wanted to be a scientist, if you wanted to be someone who is a fan of science, then you have to look at it as a thing. Like, look at this information and let's study this without any bias, any preconceived notions. I don't think they're doing that. They're looking at it and they're trying to find a way where they can justify that it's fake. And they're just doing all sorts of mental gymnastics to try to make it fake. That video that you show where that thing slips off to the left and takes off at incredible rates of speed, that alone should freak people the fuck out.
Yeah, because people confuse all the time. Like, we took the video. No, it was another crew that took the video. We watched it for 5 minutes with our eyeballs. And there was 4 of us. And we all have the same story. We all saw the same stuff. We all came and looked at each other and scratched our head and said, WTF, serious? What was that? And then what do? You move on. We never saw it again. I imagine they probably saw him on radar after that, but I think...
Radar all the time. They just don't bring it to the attention of the general public.
Oh, yeah, because if you don't, for a ship with something, and, you go, what is that? Well, You don't have any way to go out there and look at it.
Like when you're talking about, they were informing you that they were seeing these things previous to your mission. When you're doing this exercise and they let you know that they're seeing these things, did you say, hey, how frequent is this? Is this something that happens all the time?
I didn't get ours was more of the moment of, when he's telling us, hey, for the last 2 weeks we've been tracking these things. Right. And we don't know what they are.
But you don't know whether or not it was just those 2 weeks, or maybe it was a year ago. There was other similar situations, or...
There's other situations that have happened out there, but I would say this. I don't even know. One, you got to take it serious. Yeah. And we have a tendency, if we don't know what it is, if we just ignore it, it'll go away. And I joke, there was an incident it's probably not too far off the same time frame, or I think it was the Constellation was doing workups before she got decommissioned, and a Soviet Oscar-class submarine surfaced behind her, right? And then it's like, go to battle state World War III. How did this foreign submarine get in our area and has been monitoring our workups? That's a big deal.
Right.
I said, but now we go out and we have these things that are coming at will, and there's nothing to do about it. We don't know what they are. We have confirmed sighting by 2 aircrew, 4 of us, 2 planes, that said, look, this is not an airplane. This is not a weather balloon. This is not a blip. It has performance well beyond, and the airplanes that we were flying at the time were literally brand new Super Hornets right out of the Boeing factory. I mean, these were brand new, first Block 2 series that came out. And you go, why wasn't something, it's like, we don't know what it is. I think it's good, the moves that have happened over the last, 2 years since the original came out, that, now there's a new reporting. Pilots, the Navy's acknowledged, hey, these things, we don't know what they were. They're starting to take it serious because, I know there are other events that are not out, recent events where people have been called in, have seen this thing. So the investigation process is still going on. We don't stop. The military doesn't stop. Even if you're running away, we don't stop. We don't stop until we're told to stop. So, what's going on? You go, well, ATIP ended. They spent $4.5 million a year on it. I think it was $22 million over the 5 years. So you go, what are they doing since then? Well, I'm pretty sure there's still people looking at this and still people that are taking this serious. I will tell you that I won't get into specifics, but there are people inside the United States government that are taking this serious. And I've been down to D.C. twice to talk to folks, behind closed doors, to go because they want to hear the story. And I've got a lot of, you got to be joking. I mean, this seriously. And I'm like, yeah, it did happen, and it is real. What are you doing about it?
So, what kind of people are you talking to?
High-level government officials is what I'll say, and most of because that conversation is between me and them, and I don't want people speculating. But you can, high-level government officials I have talked to.
Well, that was always the speculation about, what would someone do if they became president? Well, the first thing I would do is I would tell everybody about the UFOs. I would ask immediately what's going on. And I always thought about it. I said, how many people actually know what's going on? And how much of the information? I mean, it's not like if they're dealing with something like this, like your experience, it seems like what you described is what is known. So it's this anomalous event where this thing defies our current understanding of technology, and then it's gone.
Yes.
And so what do you have? You don't have anything else other than that. Like, what other information does anybody have?
Well, I would say this because I've talked to Bob. We did
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, we did an event together, and I'll leave it to everyone it's up to you to believe Bob. I'll say this: Bob's a normal guy. Bob's not crazy.
He's not crazy at all.
Not at all.
That was the greatest thing about talking to him.
But when you look at it and go, because I had asked Bob, I said what he describes in the technology when he talks about his. I said, well, do you honestly think we could, engineer it? I said, how long do you think it would take us? And his response to me was another 100 years. He goes, Dave, it was so far beyond. He goes, the stuff that he says he worked on. He's like, he was on your podcast because I watched it. Hey, there was no wires. I had asked him when he said you first described the ship that he got to see. I used to say, they built it and then it was like wax and you'd heat it up. He goes, I would say it was built with 3D printing because now with 3D printing we can build things literally from the ground up, and it's basically built as one, not panels, no rivets. It's just made. Right. And so when you talk about that and you go, well, it's still another 100 years. So you go, well, what if you had the technology? We still, if what Bob says is correct, we still don't understand it. And how fast would it take us to understand that? I mean, if it's driven by something that we don't even have on Earth, which is when he talks about that element, we can't create it. We can create it for a microsecond, and then it decays, and we go,
element
okay,
115.
Yeah. So I think we're still a long ways off. I'll argue with the people that go, are we really alone? I was telling Jeremy we saw it on goggles. Out in the middle of the Pacific, there's no light pollution. Night vision goggles, so we can see. Well, you go out at night, I'd be on like a hop or something, just hanging out, not doing anything, driving around in circles with the autopilot. You just turn all the lights down in the cockpit so you have no light pollution, and you just roll your head back and look up. There's billions and billions and billions of stars out there. And, I always look up because I'm like, are we alone? And I look up and go, well, if we're the only ones around, and everything I'm looking at, it's a sad place. It's a pretty lonely universe. I asked my astrophysics prof that once. I said, you believe in extraterrestrial life? And she's like, of course not. And I said, well, there's billions and billions of planets. You think we're it? I mean, just the probability of it is you'd go, oh, there's probably something else out there. And I'm not crazy. I'm just opening up the possibility we are not the only planet that has life on it.
I think people don't like to seem silly. They don't like to be foolish. And I think when people start talking about anything that's not proven or anything that's connected to a bunch of loony people that are making up stories, which UFOs certainly are.
Yes.
UFOs are connected to so many people that have made up so many stories. What was that gentleman's name from, you would know that guy. He was from another country, Billy something or another.
Oh, Billy Meyer.
Billy Meyer.
Myers, yeah.
Seems 100% full of shit.
Correct? Yeah. He's proven to have done tons of hoaxes with this, but here's the deal. Sometimes I think people have a real experience, and they're always like chasing that dragon, and they get UFO disease, and their brain goes fucking berserk, right? I know that there are people that have had profound experiences, and then they can't ever replicate them, so then they just start going crazy. And I don't blame them for it. But you got someone like Commander Fravor, when he saw that AAV, anomalous aerospace vehicle, his reaction was, I want to fly it. That's a pretty cool reaction. I'd like to fly it.
Yeah, imagine flying that thing.
Well, that's what my buddy, who was my XO at the time, Dell, I got back after all this happened. He looks, we're just standing in the ready room, and he goes, hey, dude. I go, what do you think it is? I go, I have no idea, but it was pretty freaking impressed. I'd like to fly it.
Of course.
And he goes, yeah. I go, I mean, it was, it's just like any pilot. You always want to fly the coolest thing.
Of course. Yeah, of course. You're a driver. You want to drive the fastest car.
That's it. And you look at it and go, well, that's something we don't have.
Yeah.
This idea, maybe we're not alone, that some of these other stars have planets that are maybe technologically advanced. So the next thing people say, and, new eras are going to say, well, they're not coming here because the distance is so vast. Hold the fuck up. From the very beginning, when Bob Lazar came forward and talked about field propulsion, gravity propulsion, distance becomes completely irrelevant. So if we believe, and the radars are right, and Commander Fravor saw this thing moving like a ping pong ball in a glass of water, it's gravity propelled, that's why you can make those maneuvers without exploding, okay? Then distance becomes completely irrelevant for travel. You're literally warping time and space. You're falling into place.
Well, it's like the idea of showing someone a video on your phone long before video was ever invented. People would be like, what are you talking about? Like before photography was invented, which is shockingly recent, right? You had to draw pictures of things you saw. Just like those people that drew or painted those images of those men and whatever those things were with Christ in the background. The idea that we could understand what some insanely impressive technology from a planet that is nowhere near us could manifest. It's nuts.
Yeah. Bob Lazar talks a lot about this. Remember, he's a young guy, right? In 1989, he gets shown something, and all of a sudden he's trying to interpret it through 1989 technology. So he said it looks like it was injection molded because that's what he had. And then I sent him this thing about nanotechnology and working towards an atomic printer. He's like, dude, that makes a lot more sense. So he has to view it through where he saw it in 1989. However, I will say this: it is my knowledge that we understand exactly how these craft work. Our one limiting factor is our material science. We can't replicate, not the fuel source itself is another.
When you say we know exactly how they work.
Yeah, it does our laws of physics, this concept of amplification of gravity, this concept of gravity propulsion. We understand how things can move from point A to point B almost instantaneously. Our physics doesn't disallow it, but our material science and the fuel to create that machine that we have machines from other places. So we
what
have.
Do you mean?
Well, Bob Lazar, whether you believe him or not, there was a program. I have other witnesses that I will be bringing forward about S4, where he worked. We have craft.
You have other witnesses that worked with alongside
No, people
Bob?
that corroborate Bob's account, in that they saw him get on and off the red and whites, the Janet flights that come on. Somebody that went to Papoose Lake and was stopped by non-military guards at that time, people that were aware of Site 4 and ET exploitation projects. One is an SR-71 pilot that I've been talking with for a couple years. So these people are coming forward now, and it's like I'm sick and tired of doing it. These little nitpicky things about Bob. Okay, there was a program. There was a back engineering program. They've admitted there are materials. So this is like the metamaterials you heard about in the New York Times, all that. We have materials associated with UFOs that are interesting.
What is that talking about?
So this was something that was launched in the first New York Times article, I believe, in December of 2017, that there is studies being done right now on materials associated with UFOs, right? So actual metals that have come off of, you could say, crashes or...
Who is that explained that there was something, they were with Eric Weinstein, that was explaining that there was someone who reportedly has something along those lines?
Jacques Vallée has 17 samples.
17 samples. How does one 17 samples?
Well, Jacques fucking Vallée, right? So he's the guy first ever for the United States military created a computer program for the study of UFOs for Project Blue Book. So he's an old school guy. They modeled him after in the Close Encounters movie. It's modeled after Jacques Vallée, the French guy. So he's kind of like been involved with this. He's had more access to government databases than any of us. He went around, collected samples from known, crashes or like when things will come off.
And what's the conclusion?
Well, they're studying them right now. There was just something on Fox about it. They're studying some of these materials and what they will find, because the ones they're talking about, I actually took to New Mexico and had 5 scientists study it about 5 years ago. I got my hands on it, got to study it. The famous parts they're talking about now. It's layered. And the way it's layered is what they're trying to see if it's anomalous elementally, or the way that the elements are bound together, and also the atomic level of layering is what's interesting. We'll find out if it's interesting.
Explain what you're talking about. What is this thing that you saw?
Okay, well, there are a lot of different samples, but when you get a sample of something and you can see...
How big are these samples?
The ones that I looked at,
yes.
They ranged from about this size down...
audio.
They ranged from the size
of an orange?
Yeah, size of an orange to the size of a quarter. These are materials, right?
And are they materials from crash?
So that's allegedly, or there's a known crash. This is in the public domain rather than government controlled. So what I was looking at, or having the scientists look at, is isotopically and elementally. What are the elements that are in this? Are they engineered?
And what's the conclusion?
Well, I'm not. I'm going to leave it to the people that are doing it now, who have much better machines than I had access to.
Do you know any cliff notes?
Yeah, they from what I understand, there's atomic layering. There are levels of, like we do with graphene. We lay down these layers that are basically oriented at a certain degree. That's how you get a superconductor or something like that. If you take a piece of graphene and it's highly machined, so doesn't deviate from that atomic layering, you can push it right through ice like a hot knife through butter. It's the weirdest feeling in the world, because you just take this piece of what feels like graphene and it just goes right through butter, because it's a superconductor, and the heat from your hand melts the ice. So that is a metamaterial. It doesn't occur naturally. Humans created it, and it has special properties because of the way it's atomically layered. So if these materials are from somewhere else, then we suspect that they're going to be highly machined, that they're going to be created for special use. So my whole point is, our material science has not caught up with the physics that we understand for these field propulsion systems. I'm just telling you, believe me or not, but you'll hear more about it, that our material science in 1989 and today is our limiting factor. And as our material science gets better as humans, we know how these things work. Now, the fuel source, that's a whole nother conversation. But as far as creating these machines, that's what we're trying to do. That's why there is secrecy. We're trying to exploit the technology, because whoever exploits it first wins. It's a game changer. We don't want Russia to do it. We don't want China to do it. If we had a non-reactionary propulsion system, the world would look different instantaneously.
Super excited to talk to you about several subjects, but this one, thank you very much for this first edition copy of your Area 51, an uncensored history of America's top secret military book. I'm super excited about this.
I heard grapevine you were a fan.
When it comes to this stuff, what do you think is going on up there?
I mean, same thing that's going on all over the place when it comes to military secrets, which is stuff that you want to know about, very few people know about, and every now and then a journalist gets a hint at it, right?
Yeah. Do you think there's any alien stuff up there?
Right in the book, all about that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, tell me.
Last 12 pages. You want me to...
Want me to go 12 pages? What do you think?
So Area 51 was this secret test base where the CIA was running spy plane programs, right? So interestingly, my new book is about ground branch, guys on the ground. That's about air branch, what we were doing in the air. And it was this idea that we should spy on the enemy, okay? But if you go back in time, why Area 51 really started, you learn that it was a base hidden inside of a base, nuclear weapons, and it was all about beating Stalin at his black propaganda campaign, this I write in the book, to hoax Americans in a war of the worlds type scenario, whereby little men who looked like aliens would get out of an aircraft and the government would go crazy about it. And then Stalin would say, look, not only do we have technology better than you, but we have a better propaganda department than you.
Really?
Joe, you got to read the whole book. Opening, you got me on the spot.
It is a tough opening, but it's a good spot.
Right?
It's a good spot.
Right?
So Stalin, he just hired short people? Like, what did he do?
All right, I'm going to make you that. I'm going to make you earn
Save
that.
it?
Yeah.
How's that?
I mean, you want me to talk about that right now, right off the bat?
Why?
Sweating.
We're going to get to surprise, kill, vanish as well. But I want to Why does it make you sweat?
Oh my God, it's such an incendiary topic. I mean, people want to believe they're aliens.
Right.
Right? Okay. I mean, I've spent 5 books dealing with the mythology of Area 51, which is phenomenal in its own way because it speaks so much to power, to morality, to information, to people's desire to know what's going on and the government's desire to keep things hidden. So this topic is always coming up because a lot of people want to believe that there were aliens in that craft. And my source, who I write about in the book, told me otherwise, that they were genetically... Let
me stop there, because when you say that craft, what you mean is the supposed UFO wreckage that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
But that was never supposedly taken to Area 51. It was supposed to be taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The legend has it that Truman flew there to meet them, and right?
One legend.
Yeah.
So in my book, I interview a man who worked for the Atomic Energy Commission who tells a different story, tells the story of receiving that craft at Area 51 in 1951, which is why the base is called Area 51.
Oh.
And that inside the craft were humans who had been altered, surgically altered to look like aliens in a plan for Stalin to sort of twist Truman's arm, because at that time, we had the atomic bomb. When Roswell happened, we had the atomic bomb, and the Soviets did not.
Can I say, when you say humans that were surgically altered to look like aliens, do you mean... So this is 1951. So you're talking about 4 years after the supposed crash.
Yes.
So what
they
was
had the bodies.
left?
They
kept the bodies in formaldehyde. Like what?
Yes. Also because the idea was, and remember, or I can't say remember because you haven't read the book yet.
Right.
And I wrote this book 8 years ago. But it did really impact a lot of my thinking and working on government secrecy projects, because it makes you really consider what a hoax means and what it means to a population of people, and how the government begins to work with disinformation versus cover stories and all of that. But going back to answer your question, that is what I was told by the source.
But how reliable is this source? This is a very incendiary idea to rely upon one individual's recollection of it.
Why the book went through the roof in terms of people being upset about it. I mean,
were they?
Yeah, oh my God! I interviewed 79 CIA guys, Air Force guys, spy pilots, engineers. I mean,
who's mad at you?
The conspiracy theorists were mad at me because they said this woman is bananas. They were aliens.
Well, even if they weren't aliens, right? There's accounts that it was some sort of a test vehicle, and that there were actually just dummies inside there, crash test dummies that they used. There's been a bunch of different versions of it, but the most compelling version of the Area 51 alien myth to me is Bob Lazar. Did you get into that?
It plays a huge role in Area 51. I mean, before Bob Lazar went public, no one even knew about Area 51. People
it was common folklore, but there was no definitive proof that there was something going on over there other than some weird VHS footage of things flying around in the desert that seemed to be behaving in a way that modern aircrafts are not totally capable of. At least modern piloted aircrafts are not totally capable of.
Which brings me to another book I wrote called The Pentagon's Brain, which, sort of off this idea was like, wait a minute, what kind of technology is the government capable of? And we have a whole department for that reason called DARPA, which looks at weapon systems 25 years out. So the idea that you and I don't know what the military is capable of in the air, underwater, wherever it may be, is because we're not thinking 25 years out, and they are. And they're developing weapon systems, the great weapon systems of the future. That's what they call them.
Like how they developed the stealth bomber. And that was all out in Area 51 and Groom Lake. And
yes.
What do you think of Bob Lazar's story? Because Bob Lazar's story, there's some fascinating aspects to it. But one of the most fascinating is some of the things that he's said that people said was horseshit has been proven to be true. Like one of the things, the biometric reader that measured the length of the bones in your hand and that they are unique as a fingerprint. And people are like, what are you talking about? And then they actually found out that this was something they really did have. And they have photos of this thing now. This is something that he talked about, and they claimed it was science fiction.
And it's fascinating when someone touches upon a subject that the government does not want known about for any reason. And there is a campaign to discredit that person. And there's no doubt that that happened to him. I mean, it was remarkable. And I write about him in the book because if you follow the logic that my source told me, that these were, modified human beings as part of a hoax. And the reason that I trust the source is because, Joe, he told me that he also worked on the program. So he had like a burden to unload, right? And so if you follow that logic through, then the Bob Lazar story is that when Bob Lazar said, I saw an alien, it looked like this, it was small, it had big eyes. Those were those were the surgically modified humans that the government was doing experiments on.
I think Bob Lazar's exact quote was he walked by a window and he looked in and he saw two agents that were looking down at something that was very small and looked humanoid, but he didn't know if it was a dummy or anything, and he wasn't even supposed to be looking in there. And it was a brief, 1 second look that he has bounced around in his head back and forth. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe the guy who gave you that information did work there, but is also feeding you horseshit?
Well, the source was a major player in the Manhattan Project. He went on and worked in the Atomic Energy Commission. I mean, there's a wing of a museum named after him. His accolades, his awards were so extraordinary. It would be.
What's his name?
I've said his name, although, I will say this.
Well, you're giving it away. You're giving away a lot of the stuff.
He recently died, and he did give me permission to tell his full story after he died. And I'm circling around that. But he was absolutely, with a Q clearance, that's what you have when you have access to nuclear secrets. So if someone has a Q clearance for decades and they're full of garbage, you really have to ask, my God, should this guy have a Q clearance? I mean, that's reverse engineering his credibility. But I think you should read the whole book because, it's shocking what he says, but it does make sense if you can get through 400 pages of, the CIA's idea about information, disinformation, why we need to cover things up. Why
I'm asking you if you think that he might have been lying to you.
I believe he was lying
you
whatsoever.
Disinformation.
No, I don't believe. I don't believe.
So you that the Russian government definitely did surgically alter people to make them look like aliens?
I believe what he told me.
Did you see photos?
No, I did not see photos. No. But here's the rub. Ready?
Okay.
When I was writing another book called Phenomena, which dealt with the CIA and the Pentagon's use of psychics, over decades. I mean, this goes back. Everything I write about pretty much goes back to post-World War when
that remote stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about government the U.S. government takes pole position after World War II, and we now need to always be ahead of the curve. We must lead. We can never get beaten by the Russians. Now it's China, okay? So the psychic program had a lot of people who really believe in aliens or, other intelligence from other worlds. And when I was writing the Phenomena book, I learned a whole bunch of new information about how upset they were with my story because and they all knew the source, by the way. They knew the source, and they believed that he was fed misinformation. So these are two sides of the coin, which are super interesting, I think, if you can look at them with your own bias turned off and not have a desired outcome. I want to believe this. I don't want to believe this.
Right.
Speaking of I want to believe, I was working on a project with Chris Carter, who is the X-Files creator. And the one person I took the source, that I wanted to meet the source was Chris Carter. And we went out there together and sat with him and met him. Really? And it was wild because the source had never even heard of the X-Files. And it was like,
what?
I know.
How do you
They
not
talked about baseball.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't have a desired outcome. I mean, I would love it if aliens were real.
Okay.
But when someone starts talking about disinformation and propaganda campaigns, but they want you to believe them.
Right.
But don't listen, I'm here telling you the truth. I'm here telling you the truth.
I'm not saying I'm telling you the truth at all. That's why I was let's wait till
sure
hour 3 because it's too explosive. People have such a horse in the race already.
With aliens, you think?
Well, maybe you are neutral. I don't know. I know I'm neutral.
Yeah, listen, I absolutely want aliens to be real. 100%.
Wouldn't it be
I'm not neutral, but I am neutral in my perceptions. And when I look at things, I go, I don't know about that.
Me too.
A picture. Like, what do these guys look like? I mean, what did they do to them? Did he describe what kind of surgical alterations?
I stayed with the source. After the book published, I would go and visit him. We'd sit in a Chinese restaurant and eat and talk, and I would try to get a droplet of information out of him.
And what was he doing?
Oh, my God.
It?
He avoided it. Look, here's another thing. When the book came out, his wife of 65 years knew it was him, okay? And I went out to Las Vegas and sat there in a room with the source and his wife. And she said, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you made this all up, to her husband. And he said, it's the truth. That's a triangular version of getting at the truth. But again, to reiterate, I believe he believes what he told me was the truth. That was the truth he was told.
There's certain agents that think it's fun to fuck with reporters and journalists and make things up. I really do. And I think especially when they're talking about secret information that they were sworn to protect. And then all of a sudden they want to talk to someone that they don't even know. On the sneak tip, let's meet at a diner. I'm going to tell you everything.
That's not how we met.
However you met.
Yeah. We met because I was interviewing nuclear weapons engineers who were setting off nuclear bombs in Area 51, in the Nevada test site, Area 12, Area 23. And they all said to me, you've got to talk to the top engineer of all this weaponry. And they gave me his name. And we talked for days and hours about nuclear weapons. And then, in one conversation, he began to cry and told me this story that I was like, what?
Why was he?
He was crying because he participated in our version of the human experiments. Because what the Russians do, we do. Look, I've written 5 books.
We altered people to make them look like aliens?
According to him, we had a small program in 1951 where we wanted to see how the Russians did what they did, how they made human beings look like this.
So what, take prisoners or something? Or?
He said they were handicapped children.
Oh, Jesus.
And he told me that he participated in this. So again, unless you have someone that lost their mind at age 90 and was willing to tell their wife of 65 years, I lost my mind.
So he's saying that he participated in something that altered handicapped children. When you say handicapped, you mean like Down syndrome or something like that? And they made them look like aliens and then killed them? Like, how did they What did they do with this?
This is get into drops of information coming out. But what I can say is he had a grandchild that was born that way. And the grandchild did not live long. The grandchild died. And it made him feel so guilty about what he had done that he felt compelled to confess, if you will. And I remember saying to him, why are you telling me this? Why don't you tell a priest? And he said, a priest would judge me, and I can tell you won't.
Why wouldn't you judge him? I'd judge him.
Well, I guess that's why I'm a born journalist, Joe, because I really try not to judge people. I mean, my new book, Surprise, Kill, Vanish, it's about assassins. It's about people who work for the CIA who do what needs to be done on the ground in the name of national security. I don't judge them. This is why, what's really at issue here is morality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can I tell you how I got the idea for this book?
Sure, but before we go any further, so
you want to talk about
it? Yeah. Was he saying that there have never been any encounters with alien spacecrafts?
Totally neutral about aliens. He had nothing to do with aliens. He could have cared less. He didn't watch the X-Files.
And what was his take on Lazar?
His take on Bob Lazar was that he probably saw something that the government had an extension of the program. I mean, he didn't know. That was speculative. We didn't talk about that. I mean, other than inference. He was very limited in the information that he would get out. But, I mean, I used 79 sources in that book that all went on the record in name. And he was the one anonymous source. But like I said, he told me after he died that I could tell the whole story.
Are you going to?
I might. I might come back.
Write another book?
Well, if you give me a break and back off of this subject, I might come back and tell you and your audience.
What are you saying, book? I want to promote your book. I know you want to promote your new book, but I want to promote this book as well.
I mean, I'm teasing you, right?
I know you are.
But it's an astonishing story. And I think the best line of all is that people that read about that in the very end of what we did, they go, I wish they were aliens.
So Stalin created some sort of a craft that mimicked.
You're going to read it.
Okay.
That's what you're going to do the rest of the afternoon. Nope.
And we're talking. I think we should probably get into this a little bit.
Okay. On with the questions.
Okay.
I'm used to ask the questions.
Are you? Oh, right. As a journalist, yeah. Stalin and the Russians created something that mimicked a UFO, something that looked like it would be from another planet. Is that what they did?
Mothership. In those days, drones were. There was a mothership and a drone was attached to it, and it was jettisoned off. Okay? So, according...
In days.
Well, in 1947, 48. Right? Well, that was drone technology then.
Okay.
Right? So there's a mother craft, like an aircraft, and then the drone is like a small aircraft under it, and it gets jettisoned off. And that was what the craft was. It was jettisoned off. So Stalin actually, according to the source, invaded our airspace, which was the deep embarrassment to Truman.
He invaded our airspace and then let this drone crash land on the ground with these things that turned out to be human.
Yes.
They looked like aliens, but they turned out to be humans that were manipulated surgically to look like aliens.
Yes, as a way to, and not remember, but where this was, very close to a nuclear weapons base, to our White Sands military base. I mean, this is like not a place you want the Russians to be able to get near.
Right.
I mean, what was interesting is at Area 51, we then went out and mimicked all of those. One of our early drones was a mimicry of that. It was there was a M21, which was the mothership, and a D21, which was the daughter ship. So
how did they put them? Was it wirelessly like we do now?
No. Then it was like there was a pilot in the mothership, and they kind of let it go. Right, and it flew off. I mean, there's incredible stories of what the CIA was able to do out there at Area 51 with their air branch, the technology, they're always ahead of technology. That's what's remarkable.
What Bob Lazar did film that was really shocking was the filming of these drones flying around and performing these really you've seen those videos, I'm sure, right?
It gets really crazy with what they're able to do and what they're... But, I mean, why I like looking at history is because you can see the progression, you know? You see how science evolves, bit by bit. And then there's these great breakthroughs because what the government is always looking for is called a revolution in military affairs, right? And that's certainly what drone technology did. later on as drones became developed after the Vietnam War.
So 1980s, when Bob Lazar was filming all this stuff, you think this was similar to the technology that we see publicly described today in terms of like what drones are capable of?
Sure. I mean,
So
that's
they probably
all,
had something like that back then.
When the F-117 was revealed during the first Gulf War, that aircraft was being developed for 25 years out at Area 51. Actually, at Area 52 was where they had it set up to develop that stealth technology. Think about, and what was amazing, talk about keeping secrets. They had something like 10,000 people working on that. No one knew about it. That story was never broken by the press, not by anyone. It just suddenly appeared in the Gulf War and took out Saddam Hussein's, facilities. That's a revolution in military affairs. What becomes interesting is then it becomes obsolete because now everybody knows about it and everybody's going to mimic that. And now you have to have a new weapon system, and that's the military-industrial complex.
Was this drone aircraft that was released from the mothership, was this capable of autonomous flight, or was it just they just threw it out there and let it crash?
The latter, right? And remember, that information I am very limited to. That's why it's 12 pages. It's like the source gave me these little bits of information, which I felt was important to include because it speaks to the big issue. Why is Area 51 classified? I mean, now it's not. President Obama was the first president to actually say Area 51 publicly. Some people say because of my book, right? Meaning it was out. The secret was out. But before that, I went through 10,000 pages of documents from the National Archives. And every place you see, the word Area 51 was actually redacted. Right? Why would you keep that so secret? I mean, all the guys that I was interviewing say they could call it, Groom Lake. They could call it the test facility. They could call it Paradise Ranch. But they couldn't say Area 51. Why? And the source said, well, because we did this horrible program out there, and the government doesn't want anyone to know about that ever. I mean, there's stories of like somebody asking Bill Clinton, about Area 51, him going white. I mean, human experiments. Who wants to be part of that? It's horrible.
Human experiments were they limited to this mimicry of the Russian experiments where they were trying to get people to look like aliens, or was there something else going on?
Well, my goodness. I mean, you read now the declassified documents tell us how many different human experiments were going on around nuclear weapons, okay? Horrible experiments where they were subjecting people to radiation because they wanted to know. They felt, well, it's more important to know what happens to people than to not know. And so they would take groups of people that, say, had cancer or something and test them. So there's no doubt that the government has experimented on humans. It's just, is that something that is wise to make public? And, there's two sides of the coin on that. I mean, you when you reveal these kind of things, when you write about them, I mean, people get really upset and, vilify the government, partially with good reason, and partially it's like bad for national security. So I think that's the justification on the part of the Defense Department to keep things secret.
Wow, that's an interesting take that I never thought of before. But if I was Stalin and I was trying to, air quotes, fuck with the Americans, that's maybe the way I would do it. Hey, man, you got a problem. It's aliens, they're coming. And it's hard for people that live in 2019, especially if you're young, to really imagine a world not only without the internet, but with 2 television channels, right? And radio, which was where people got all their information from. I mean, was there 2 channels? How many channels were there in 1947? Maybe 3? Maybe 3.
I mean, it was radio in World War II, right? Most people had radio.
Yeah, mostly radio and newspapers, and that's where people were getting their information.
Right.
And there was a mass hysteria where people were absolutely terrified that we were going to be invaded, which is why when Orson Welles' War of Worlds, which when they released it, when they did it on the air, they were very clear that this is going to be a reading of Orson Welles' War of Worlds book. Or that H.G. Wells, excuse me. War of Worlds, right? It was H.G. Wells' book, and Orson Welles read it.
Yes.
And when they were talking about this on the radio, a lot of people missed that part, right? Yes. And so as the radio went on, as the broadcast went on, and people were tuning in later in the day, it erupted in mass hysteria. People were freaking out. Hundreds of thousands of people really did think that it was, and it was also something that was recreated in other countries. I don't know if you know that. They did that in other countries in different languages when they saw how cute it worked in America. And, you know.
Well, so you see the logic. I mean, at first it sounds absurd and it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's why I was sweating, because it's like,
I know.
Right?
Right.
But when you think it through, and I challenge you to read the whole book, because you start piecing together these various ideas and disinformation becomes less vague and more specific, and you go, that's how it works. And you begin to see how people's perception and how they're easily manipulated factors into national security, just like you just described. Stalin knew about that. He was a master. He was the master of propaganda. He invented it. I mean, he didn't invent it, but he invented it in on the political stage to be used to mess with another country's perception of things. Right? Okay. So like in the 50s, and this is journalists, said, so there was a journalist who was putting out stories about brainwashing. And there was this idea, which is well taken, that totalitarian governments brainwash people. And this became a big code word. It was introduced into the American lexicon in 1950. Well, then we're in the Korean War. Our pilots start getting shot down. They're put on TV by the communists saying terrible things about America, the American pilots. And suddenly it was like, they've been brainwashed. It was very convenient to have that story. So these things work part and parcel, and you've got all kinds of smart people behind the scenes knowing this, looking at it, examining it, and using it to their advantage to stay where? In the pole position. That's the goal of the U.S. government.
So the propaganda that we did that sort of copied Stalin's, we were kind of playing catch up in that sense.
I mean, catch up, then we're ahead, then we're behind. It's always a game. You're a competitor, you know this.
But that's a crazy thing to do, to make a fake spaceship and just let it slam into the ground with a bunch of people that you cut up to look like aliens. Did he say specifically what kind of modifications they made to people that made them look like aliens?
I got drips. And you'll read it in those 12 pages.
Come on, this 12 pages.
I mean that because you're asking me these questions as if I spent... I mean, look, I did spend literally hundreds of hours with this source. We sat there and talked about everything, and I would try to squeeze out, just like you're trying to squeeze out of me, and that's why I'm saying read it, because I literally tell you everything that there is. I think what's most interesting about the source and why I might come back and talk to you about it and tell you who he is on your show. Because of his backstory, right? Why he did what he did, how he wound up in the Manhattan Project.
Sounds he was probably Jewish from Germany. No?
No.
Trying to get you. It is the ultimate who knows question, but goddamn, I wish more people from S4 would come forth. If Bob really did work with all those people and they really were briefed the same way he was, if we could get more of those people to talk, that would be utterly fascinating.
Well, your show's a big reach, so maybe this time somebody will hear it
Straight
and come
up.
forward.
Did anybody ever reach out to you that claimed to also have worked with Bob at S4?
A bunch,
yeah.
And
did you verify any of them?
No, they could not be verified, and in fact, I think they were lying to me.
And Bob shoots people down all the time. As fucking standing on a UFO stage, lying bullshit. I mean, no, he hasn't even. He was hoping one other employee would. However, I have had people that work at Area 51 confirm parts of Bob's story. One in particular saw him coming off the jet, or he says he saw him coming off the Janet flights. I said, will you go on record with me that you met Bob there on the tarmac? No. Why? Everything we did there was confidential. We couldn't even tell our wives. Why would I go on record with you?
And if he did go on record, he'd probably get harassed or arrested or...
Yeah, he can't tell you what he ate for lunch out there. And one of the guys I was real excited to talk with just recently passed away. He actually started the bar that was at Area 51. So everybody told the bartender stuff. He started as a flower fund because no one would send flowers to wives when people died out there. But my point is, people have come forward to George, to me. A lot of people are lying, but it adds up over time, man.
I got more than 2 people who have come to me with bits and pieces of the story, who had worked out at Area 51 that I confirmed were out there. Security people who had seen a disc under a tarp in a hangar, different people had worked there at different times, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, who had little pieces of the story, not to confirm Bob. And then there was one that I pursued. I don't know if you want to keep going on this, but sure. I had pursued this guy. I was trying to find in the early 90s people who were in a position to know about what goes on out there, and I found one. And he had been active in the nuclear weapons program. He had worked for EG&G. He had EG&G had the contract to manage Area 51 from the beginning, all the way through the first 30 or 40 years of it. And so I started basically stalking the guy. One of his sons was a state senator, and he had told me, he confided to me, that you got to ask my dad about UFOs and aliens. And another son had been an FBI agent. So I stalked the guy, introduced myself. There were a couple of public events where I would just show up, and he finally got confident enough in me to invite me to his home. And he gets out these scrapbooks, and he's showing me these stories and clippings and photos from the nuclear weapons program. And I'm watching and taking notes and stuff, and suddenly he closes the book and he goes, "You're not here to talk about this nuclear weapons, are you?" I said, "No, not really." And his wife walks in and she says, "Oh, you're not going to tell him that stuff, are you?" And then he started telling me. And then over the course of 2 years, I would meet with him, have a cup of coffee somewhere. I couldn't take notes. I couldn't record anything, but he told me the story. Now, this guy actually is someone that you've had reference to on your show. Remember Annie Jacobson, her book about Area 51?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same guy, but the story that he told me was different than what he told her. He said that they eventually told me that they had a live alien, that I could not go public with this until after he died, that they had craft, that it was in a special spot. Originally it was at Indian Springs, which is now Creech Air Force Base, and then it was moved to Area 51 when 51 became active, and that there was a very small group that tried to analyze this stuff. They didn't know where it was from. They didn't know how we obtained it. He said this thing was alive, and that they eventually were able to communicate with us, and told me that he was going to make a videotape and he was going to make it available so that after he died I could have it. Well, suddenly 2 or 3 years later, he totally changes his story. What had happened was there was a congressional investigator. His name was Richard D'Amato, and he worked for Senator Robert Byrd, and he oversaw black budget projects. And he got onto this UFO story from Whitley Strieber. And so he was assigned, find out what the deal is. So he went around the country, talked to different researchers, and came to me and wanted to know about Area 51 and Lazar. So I told him a story, and I told him about this guy. And he got permission for this guy to violate his security oaths and talk to him about it. And they had multiple conversations, and they went to the founders of EG&G, the company, and it became a dead end. But after that congressional inquiry, this guy completely changed his tune. So he made up this story, which is the one that you heard from Annie Jacobson, that what crashed at Roswell was a Russian technology, Nazi technology, flown by the Russians, containing little concentration camp victims who'd been experimented on by Dr. Mengele. Completely ridiculous, story. But I think he got scared. He was a real guy in a real position to know, and had shared with his family some of this information. I think the story that he told me was legit. But if he made the tape, which I think he did, I didn't get it.
How much time has been wasted talking about bullshit in this subject?
Centuries.
That's part of the problem, isn't it?
People just make up.
Yeah.
And the more fanciful and ridiculous, the better, unfortunately. People pay more to hear that and consume it.
I had an operation one time after his art thing, somebody who was targeting me, and he had other people helping him, that could convince me that he had worked out there with live aliens. And I'm getting letters from his, supposedly written by his neighbors. Hey, you got to check this guy out, Dr. I'll just say X. He was taken away by armed security in the middle of the night. I think he has something to do with aliens. And from out of the blue, then suddenly I am at a planetarium event, and I'm going to speak about UFOs at some event at this community college. And the guy shows up in a men's room. Hey, my name is Dr. X. Standing there at the urinal. You're not doing a story about me, are you? So no. Who are you? What? This was a concerted effort to get me to believe that he had worked out there. And it went on for a couple of years. And of course, it was complete bullshit. When I finally did dig into his background, I was able to document where he had worked and what he'd been doing through most of his life. And it was just like a fantasy role-playing thing. At least I hope it was.